Don't be afraid of your intuition.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid to play with this. Don't be afraid to throw a question out to your guides and see what happens. It isn't scary. It's yours.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to decide what you do with it or don't do with it. Don't be scared. Be love.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to LOA Uncorked. This is Holli.
And this is Jeanna.
And Jeanna.
Hey, Holly.
Okay, today we have the most amazing guest.
I know.
And when I was thinking about her, I was thinking about
thinking, dreaming, planning, researching, all the things. You were doing all the things.
But what came to me was a pattern of P's.
P's?
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you what they are.
Okay, this is interesting.
The last one might not exactly land, but first of all, we have a true pro in the house.
For sure.
And I'm going to tell you, she's also a pioneer. So pro and pioneer are the two P's. And let me tell you why. Because she started, I mean, this is going to impress you. She started out in 2008 with a podcast called Out of the Fog with Karen Hagar.
Oh, I love it.
And what is so impressive about that is that she did it weekly. She does it weekly. She has a cornucopia of everything you could possibly ever want to learn about. I mean,
could you have used potpourri instead of cornucopia? Just to stay with the P thing. I mean,
oh, I love that, Jeanna. You complete me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's completely true. Okay, so a potpourri, in-depth potpourri, though, because that seems sort of superficial.
Potent potpourri.
Potent.
Potpourri.
Yes. Okay. Of a treasure. I mean, it's a treasure chest of information. I don't know how she did it. I mean, I'm exhausted looking at everything I can play, which I was playing everything I could get my hands on. And we invite our audience to do that as well. Yeah. But let me go to my last P.
Okay.
And then I'm going to get a little bit more professional because, you know,
it's a P2.
Right. Okay. The last P is psychic, but it sounds like an S.
Yeah, it does.
It really, it's one of those tricky words.
You definitely get to check the box with that.
I love it. So we have, I'm so happy. We have Karen Hagar here. She's an intuitive guide and a psychic channel. She holds classes and events for students to connect with their intuitive development and their spiritual path, and also to open up themselves to abundance, Jeanna.
I love it. Keep going.
And she is here with us, and she does readings and she holds classes. I don't know how she found time to squeeze us in, Jeanna. I feel very fortunate. Yeah, and she has this beautiful podcast, Out of the Fog. Welcome, Karen Hagar.
Hi, Karen.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for saying all those nice things. We have a new puppy. And when you said you had a pattern of P's, I thought a pattern of P, because that's, of course, what we have from the new puppy. So we use a lot of paper towel with the puppy. So there's just another P.
It's puppy, a puppy, paper towel, PP. Yes. Okay. You know, all right. So Karen, I mean, let me
add something to Karen's list, though, of accolades. I mean, undiscovered comedic talent is 100% on there too. We're hoping this podcast illuminates her skill. Maybe somebody will be listening.
Well, she's a performer and an actor and improv. We were talking about improv right before we hit. But I really, so listen, so I'm under remedial training. And so I really want to be able to give you advice about your puppy. But I can't give advice unless you ask me for it. So would you like some advice?
Can I have some advice about my puppy?
Oh, no. Karen, I'm so happy
Karen, you're giving too soon.
I'm sorry. She looked happy.
I know.
You have to see this on YouTube. You have to come on YouTube and see us.
Happy.
Okay, so here's the best thing I've ever heard. Okay, if you have any rugs in your house, go get a ruggable. I'm sorry. We should they should sponsor us. That's how we should be monetized by those ruggables are super cute, and you can put them in your washer, and then you don't have to throw them out. You don't have to scrub them with chemicals, and you're better for the environment. Karen, was this the best advice?
Oh, it's the best. You know what? We have a ruggable, and so I think they should sponsor me too.
Exactly.
Game changer, because this dog, who I love and who I have married in my heart, and I will never leave, not ever. This dog also sheds so much, and I love that I can just unvelcro the ruggable. I can defuzz it and then put it in the washer. It comes back nice, and all I need to do is flatten it out, and bam, I've got a rug again. And it looks nice enough that it fools people into thinking I'm a grown-up with a grown-up home. I'm not a grown-up. I don't have a grown-up home. But
Oh, yes. I love that it fools people. It's trickery. Okay. At its finest. And I do love that. Okay. Listen, I'm going to hashtag the ruggable people.
Yes, we have to.
This is
Oh, yeah.
impromptu, like love
they're so
festing
good.
on the ruggable. And quite frankly, I wish this is a public service announcement. It's a PSA, because had I known this before I bought the expensive grown-up restoration hardware jute rug.
oh,
Okay,
golly.
people, if you're thinking of doing that, I can't tell you how many thousands of dollars I gifted myself for my move and for my divorce. I gifted myself this rug, and my little babies who I've adopted them. They're in my heart. I cannot get rid of them. We made a lifetime-long commitment. Peed the hell out of that rug. Okay.
I think they thought it was like the grass or the outdoors. It does have a little bit of like a natural smell.
It does. And so I had to hire somebody to get it out of my house.
Oh my gosh. And it's all those layers of
Oh, it was
pee
disgusting.
penetration.
Yes.
We're still doing our
Penetration.
theme.
Oh my
And then
God,
it-
that was
and
a
then
double
it-
credit. You got extra credit on that
I-
one.
Thank you.
Penetration 2.0.
Pointer.
Oh my God.
Really good.
Anyway, okay, everybody get the ruggable. They're super cute. Jonathan Adler did like a collab with them, a designer collab. It's really good. We love it, but we are not here to talk about ruggables, Karen. We are here to
No,
talk
sorry,
about
you're right, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, Jeanna.
Well, Karen, we're so thrilled you're here, and already an extremely fun podcast. So we'll keep it going. So what we typically start our podcast with, just an ask of our guests to share a little bit about yourself, kind of the milestones of Karen Hagar, if you will, like just so that there's some foundation, some grounding for our listeners about you, who you are, kind of the big milestones in your life and what's brought you to today.
Oh,
And then we'll go
gosh.
from there.
So it's a long way, but I started as a really weird psychic kid. And one of my first memories of working with my guides or connecting intuitively was of me when I was about 4, telling my guides to shut up and go away. Because my guides would show me things and they would tell me stuff, and it was weird. And even at 4, I knew it was weird. And so I have a very clear memory of at that age telling my guides to shut up and go away. I don't want to ruin the end of the movie, but your guides don't actually go away. I kind of, they step back. Your guides work with you. They stepped back, but I spent that time from when I was about 4 till when I was in my early 40s, which is when I started to embrace my intuitive ability and really do something with it, trying to not be psychic. And I worked really hard at that. And it turns out now that from my advanced age, when I look back, I can see that my intuitive ability was with me in everything that I did. So I worked as an actor as a kid and loved that. And of course, I used my intuition to help me create characters and to help feel into kind of the emotional part of being in theater, and then a little bit on film. I worked in publishing, where of course I used my intuition to navigate kind of a cutthroat corporate world. And also I did page layout and design. So also used intuition to help me with that design. I, in my 30s, had a deep spiritual experience that led me to the Episcopal Church. I lived in San Francisco at the time, and I went right up the hill to Grace Cathedral. And that experience led me eventually, after many years of work, to seminary, where I was training to become an Episcopal priest. And I got almost to the end of that time, still trying not to be intuitive, by the way. I was doing pastoral counseling, I was preaching and teaching and running groups and stuff. Nope, still no intuition. Nope, not with me. I got almost to the end of seminary, and I had a deep knowing that this wasn't for me. It wasn't right, that there was something different, something more. And it's one of the hardest things I ever did, but I honored that feeling and I stepped back from it. And when I stepped back from seminary, my life started to change in all kinds of ways. And it led me years later, it's a super long story, to a place where I found myself realizing that I needed to embrace my intuitive ability, because otherwise I'd go nuts. All this trying to keep it down, all this working against myself, all this denying what was the truest about me wasn't serving me. And so in my early 40s, I had a big medical thing and I had 3 surgeries, one after the other. After the 3rd surgery, my intuition kind of came roaring in so strong I couldn't deny it. And it's from that place, which was about 2007, that I started to get some training and started to work then professionally. I still can't believe I said this. I work professionally as an intuitive. It's
Yeah.
what I do for a living,
Wow, that's so
right?
cool.
What? No, you don't do that. People don't do that. I do. It's not what I thought I'd do, and here I am. So that's
I
me.
love that.
Highlights of Karen.
I
Oh, I
love
love
that
it.
story. And I mean, I had a reading with you. You're amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. It was
Thank you.
beautiful. And I can definitely, attest to that. But one of the things we really wanted to talk to you about, that your story is so beautiful, is about awakening your intuition. And what I wanted to ask you about, because you, except for parts of it, what you experienced when you were 4, and I don't know whether I would have wanted to experience when I was 4, is what I desired my whole life. And I grew up thinking I have no intuition. In fact, my mantra, I actually had a mantra that I'm becoming an accountant because I have no intuition. And so I grew up, and my awakening was when I was 40, and it's not, I don't need to talk about there was no medical issue, but there was an awakening that, oh, geez, maybe I'm not alone. And so we've got people on the spectrum that maybe are like you, that denied, and then me, that I don't ever remember having spirit. I remember feeling alone. And then I also want to talk about how you were in the corporate world and you're in all these different, jobs and careers, and you're really actually successful because of your intuition, but you're not acknowledging it. That was me. And so I became an accountant and rose up through the ladder because, I didn't know that I really wasn't really, I guess I looked at the numbers, but my gut would tell me whether we should buy this company or not,
Right.
and it was my intuition that made me, but I would never have acknowledged, I acknowledge it now, but I would never acknowledge it. And back then I remember we had you'll remember this, Jeanna, we worked together in our career, and we had a gentleman that he would say in front of the board, he would say, I'm not sure how that feels in my tummy. And I remember looking at him thinking, get over your tummy already. Nobody needs to look at your tummy. I was just annoyed
to think about your tummy.
there was this just masculine side of me that was left-brained. Well, I thought it was, but I was more integrated than I knew, that was laserly focused on denying that part. And so I know this is a long circle way around, and Jeanna has a different story, but there is this spectrum of like, how do you awaken intuition? And then and if you had it before, how do you get it back? I guess there's 2 separate ways of looking at it, because I never thought I had any. I'm still trying to get it back. Okay. So
I feel like when we come into these bodies, we bring intuition with us. I feel like every single person, no matter what your story, no matter where you are, whether you acknowledge it ever or not, you have that little intuitive flame in you. It's part of how we connect to the part of ourselves that is of spirit, right? We're of flesh and of spirit. We're mortal and we're immortal, right? Our time here in the body is a paradox, and intuition is one of the things that we bring in with us when we come in that helps us bridge that paradox. So everyone, I believe, and this is how I teach intuitive development, everyone has intuitive ability and it cannot get lost. So I receive what you're saying about trying to get it back and did I lose it? It cannot get lost because it's yours. It's as much a part of you as any other part of you. And we can turn our attention from it, or if you're a silly person like me, you can try to pretend it isn't there, but it's still there. And part of what awakens intuition is this, well, it sounds simple, it's not really that easy, is I'm going to say simple act of turning your attention back to the possibility that you are intuitive. Even when you said that mantra, I'm going to be an accountant because I have no intuition, you knew behind that statement was the energy, I know there's more for me. I'm repeating this over and over, but I know there's more for me. And part of intuition is that something more. I see more, know more, feel more. intuit more than is right in front of me. And that's part of how we connect to our intuition, is by turning our attention a little bit deeper than what's just in front of us. Does that make sense?
It certainly does. And are there, I mean, of course, we never lose it, but you did say that you had to start practicing it.
Yeah.
And so if we all acknowledge, then our listeners acknowledge, okay, we all have intuition. I think probably most people can get behind that. And there's probably levels of I don't know, maybe we'll ask that. If there's levels of intuition, can I start my psychic business, Jeanna? Or, you know, what, I don't think I could do that, but is there, first of all, the first question is there a practice to sort of start bringing that into an everyday life?
Yeah, there are three little bits to it, maybe. And the important thing to remember is that your intuition is yours. No one else ever will experience intuitive ability the way that you do. And that's very important. It goes along with how you didn't lose it. You're just coming back to something that's already true, that's already yours. Three little bits to awakening intuition. The first is spiritual practice. So that's just consistent, loving, compassionate reconnection with spirit. That can be as easy as when you wake up in the morning, before you swing your legs out of bed, before you go to pee or let the dog out or wash the jute rug or whatever you're going to do, that you stop and say, thank you, or good morning, guides, or today I commit to something more. A consistent daily practice of remembering that there's more. The second thing is imagination. And when I say imagination, I don't mean making things up. I mean expanding your horizons, being curious, reading things, listening to things, talking to people, taking a chance where you normally wouldn't, because our guides use our imagination, use what we know to give us images, to give us insight. And so imagination helps us look beyond. The third thing to practice or to work on to connect more deeply with your intuition is discernment. Because I've been teaching intuition now for the last, 751 years. And one of the things that students tell me is, I'm afraid to open the door to my intuition because it'll be scary. It'll be a flood of images. I'm not going to be able to control it. What if I suddenly know who's going to win the Super Bowl, or I know that somebody's going to pass? What if it's scary? What if I can't control it? So discernment is really important, because not all things that come in intuitively need to be acted on. And you, as the perceiver, always, always, always have time to step back from what you receive and look at it. So spiritual practice, imagination, discernment, that lets you have some control over the process and open yourself up to start to feel a little bit more.
I love that. I want to take us back to imagination, because that is something that I hear. I feel like having that with people who support you. So I have some friends that'll say, I just feel this. Or I say that now. And Jeanna goes, well, if you feel it, that's true. I just believe in you. And sometimes you think I'm making it up, and you think I'm making it up, or I'm crazy.
Yeah. Certain instances more than others.
Right. Yeah. Or I have friends that say, I'm crazy. I said, no, you're not. That's your intuition. You need to go with that. And so supporting one another. But I think there is a factor of people that think that imagination is, you're just making stuff up. It's not your intuition.
Well, that's sane, isn't it? Because sometimes we are making it up. Sometimes we think we get a big intuitive hit, but it's really what we most wanted to hear. And one of the reasons to practice, to learn about your intuition, to do some reading, take some classes, put this into practical action in your life, is that with practice, you start to be able to feel the difference between what's me just talking to myself and what is more. What's spirit speaking through me? What is spirit kind of whispering to me or showing me in my dreams? You start to be able to tell the difference. Even when you can tell the difference, you will probably still question yourself, because you are a sane, rational human being. And it's important to know that questioning yourself is not wrong. In fact, you should question yourself. When something intuitive comes in, what I tell students is whatever you receive, you acknowledge it. Okay, I'm getting a strong intuitive image of a green frog. You say, thank you for that green frog. And then you discern, green frog. What does that mean? How can I feel more into that? What do I want to do with that image of the green frog? When you build in, when you acknowledge and honor your rationality and your skepticism, which is also a huge, great tool for intuition, when you acknowledge that and give it space to work, your intuitive gift is cleaner because you haven't tried to throw all the rationality away and go all unicorn all the time. You can't do clean intuitive work that way. We're human vessels, right? So the information comes through us as people.
Right. So can I ask you, you talked about kind of just this push and pull of this gift that you had and this real strong desire for you to get rid of it, push it down, ignore it, make it go away, whatever it was, all of the above. I'm not sure. So can you talk about why you were, why that gift was so uncomfortable? You wanted it to go away. Can you share kind of what's the root of that for you?
Because what's the best way to answer this? So a couple things were happening. One was I was raised in a family where you sat up straight and you always put your best foot forward and you were quiet and you didn't make waves. I had very, very loving parents. And I also learned early on that weirdness was maybe not the most popular way to go.
Yeah.
The second thing that was happening around about that time I was 4 was my little sister was born. Okay. And she was prettier than me, better than me. She smelled better than me, looked better than me. Everything was better. And I was jealous of her. Oh. And I think a part of telling this is like little Karen's therapy hour now, but I think part of telling my guides to be quiet and go away was that I wanted to be the way not just the way my parents wanted me to be, but like the way I thought society wanted me to be. And as I continued through my life, no matter what it was that I was doing, it just kept turning up that I wasn't the way society wanted me to be anyway. I married a woman. We're white. Our children are African American. I moved across the country when, of course, good people stay where they were born. I did all these things. I went to seminary to be a priest. Who does that? So I kept not doing. I kept doing things that proved to me that maybe those ideas that I had about what was right or good or proper, maybe those things. Maybe that didn't apply to me after all.
Wow.
I love that. That is a beautiful
journey and a phenomenal story.
Permission prescription for everybody to embrace your uniqueness wherever you're at today. I mean, there's no timeline, but you think about, the pain that caused, in the journey, and we're all here for the journey for sure. I mean, but that is beautiful.
Yeah. And, it's, and, very difficult for some of us. Like Karen, I think you and I are a lot alike in this area, like, that pleasing, wanting to be liked, wanting to be
fit in.
Appreciated, fit in, be special, talent, all the things, it's.
You have the heavenly pool sister too.
Yes,
Janet.
yes, exactly. Well, I was the heavenly pool.
Oh, I know you keep saying that.
I was.
I don't know.
Trust me. I don't know either. But well, so wasn't around the fear of the gift so much.
Is the fear of being different?
It was more about fear of being a big weirdo. And I just turned out to be a giant weirdo anyway. And really what happened was the more I tried to suppress it, and I see this a lot in students too, the more I tried to suppress it, when it came up, it was scary.
Yeah.
So I would try really, really hard not to see or know or feel anything. And so when the stuff did come up, it was big stuff. And a lot of times it was scary stuff. I'm really good at reading places. And so I would often find myself in spooky places, and then, hey, here's someone I didn't invite coming up to say hello to me, person in spirit, right? And because I had pushed back any help from my guides, pushed back any protection, all of a sudden it's like someone jumping out of the bushes going, bah, at you. And it was my experiences with the ability were scarier because I didn't look at them, didn't learn.
Right.
So yeah, that's how it was. That's how it was for me.
Wow.
I love that. Well, let's talk about spirit guides. So does everybody have them, and do they stay the same?
Oh, if you buy a ruggable, you get an extra spirit guide. Actually, you get a free one today.
A ruggable spirit guide.
Ruggable kicks one in. Yeah.
I got an angel ruggable. Okay, my angel ruggable.
And you know it's with you because of that sound that it makes when you unpeel. You can hear that unpeeling sound. That's how you know your guide is with you.
People get a ruggable, you'll know what we're talking about.
Yeah, the sound
it's
effect.
the real classy unpeeling of the fine silk carpet that we have.
So yes, everybody has guides. Part of what we come into the body with, we come in with that intuitive flame already lit, and we come in with guides who kind of hang out with us, travel with us to help us on our path. So what I'm about to say is how I feel and work about guides. You'll find other teachers to tell you a blue million other things, so your mileage may vary. For me, guides are energetic beings who come in with us to help us on our journey. They don't have gender. They don't have names. They will assign themselves gender and names and attributes to make it easier for us to understand them or see them. So if I say I have a guide who's male and this is how that guide looks, the guide themselves isn't really male, and they're not really dressed like a cowboy or Dumbledore or whatever it is. It's just that they give themselves attributes so that we understand them. And guides work with us in our field when we ask them. They're not going to push their way in. They come in to help us interpret intuitive information that we receive from spirit. So they help kind of filter and interpret that so that we can understand it through our human lens. And they also help us be aware of, what's the right way to say this? They help us be aware of things we might be missing otherwise. So the places where I tell myself I can only do this much, or this is all that's open to me, a guide might help us by planting a little something in a dream, or whispering to us, or coming to us when we are in meditation to remind us that there's more ahead for us than just what we can see. That's who our guides are. We all have, as I see it, one master guide, sometimes more than one, usually just one. Master guide comes in with us and it's womb to tomb. So comes in with us when we take our body and stays with us until we leave our body. And I think of the master guide as kind of like if you're going to do a renovation of your house and you've got the one big contractor who then runs all the subcontractors and makes sure everything's done on time and nobody leaves their tools in the hallway and all that kind of stuff. That's the master guide. We also have vocation guides, who are guides who are specifically with us. It's not so much about vocation like career. It's more about how can we best see into and feel into, live into our soul purpose, why we're here. And then we've got a ton of other guides that tend to come in and out of our field. They help. I'm just going to tell you another personal thing. I have a guide that helps me with parking, because I'm very, very bad at interfacing with the physical world. Like I can't open doors, and I push on the thing I should pull, and I can't work the pencil sharpener, and the soup falls out of the wrong end of the ladle when I touch it. So I have it. Parking the car is awful. So I have a guide, really do have a guide who helps me with parking. So as silly as that, anything that we need to enhance our experience in the physical, we have guides for. So that's how I think about guides.
Oh, I love that. Okay, that explains why I can't put anything together. I got a wine rack for Narnia. I have a closet that's my wine closet. I call it Narnia. You part the coats and there's the wine.
Yeah, okay. and she goes in there, and
then it magically come out with a great bottle of wine.
Yes.
And I thought, well, I have to get organized, because apparently my wine cellars, Narnia, is continuing to rise. I don't know what that means, but that's a different podcast.
But I'm having a different expert.
I go in
for that.
there and I'm like, I bought a rack on Amazon, and it comes with all these pieces and parts. And I want to fall apart and cry just looking at it.
Yeah.
And my son says, I go, please help me. Please help your mother. Okay. And my son says, what is the matter with you? This is so easy. I'm like, oh, no. I don't know. I don't think they have. I mean, even my guides would get tired of me on that one. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh no. So here's something good to know.
Yes.
Your guides never get tired of you. They belong to you. And
Oh.
they're not ever standing back with their arms crossed or tapping their toes or rolling their eyes. They're never like, oh God, she can't build the wine rack, or why didn't she just park in that parking space?
Right.
Our guides are truly keyed toward helping us. If you were interested in connecting with your guides and you were faced with that wine rack, one of the things you could do would be spread out all the pieces and then sit with that for a minute and say,
No.
guides, help me see this in a different way. Help me see how, I'm going to put the instructions aside, help me see how this might go together. Now, that might not work. It may not help you build the wine rack, but, or it could be all crooked and not be a wine rack and be a, I don't know, bunk bed or something instead. But when you ask your guides to step in and help you, they really do help.
Right.
And if you're looking for the gift of a changed perspective or the gift of some calm when you're beating yourself up for not being able to do it, you can ask for that.
And for those that don't, sorry, I just
Yes,
have to ask this quick question. For those that don't feel that intuition, or haven't developed that relationship with their guides that have been with them since birth, does it take some time and practice? Like, would you have to sit down with a couple of wine racks and practice asking and feeling for that for the intuition to be more overt and felt or heard?
Yes, because it is just like building a relationship with anyone.
Right.
It takes time. The relationship is always there, but you're bringing your attention back to it. So yes, it takes time to build the relationship, and it can start by you stopping what you're doing, pausing this podcast right now and saying, hello, guides, and just listening, feeling for something. You may not feel a darn thing. And then you go, okay, and play the podcast again. But if you get a practice of stopping and going, hello, guides, you may find, or something that is maybe even more fun than that, is come up with a question, something that's a yes or no question, something that you don't care very much about the answer, and something that's instantly verifiable. So something I like is, hey, guides, is the mail here yet? It's a yes or no question. It doesn't really matter if the mail's here yet or not. And I can easily check if the mail's there. I ask the question, I feel for a yes or no in my body, in my heart, however intuition works for me. And then I get up and look. So you can connect with your guides as quickly as that. But yeah, it takes time to build the relationship. It's not because they don't trust you. It's because you don't trust them.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Ask questions, be skeptical. Don't just swallow this whole thing. Try it for yourself and see how it changes.
Oh, I love that. And is it usually a feeling for most people? Do people actually hear? Do people see their guides?
For every person, it's different, because you and your guides, that's way different than me and my guides, just because everyone has a deeply individual. So you don't have to worry too much about that. There are what they call the clair senses. So clairvoyant, we see, clairaudient, we hear, clairalient, we smell, clairsentient, we feel, claircognizant, we know, and there's probably a couple that I left out. We probably, most of us connect with our guides through whichever of the clairs is strongest for us. I am mostly clairvoyant. So my relationship with my guides is largely through seeing, not with my actual eyes, but in my mind's eye, imagination. That's how I connect with my guides. I've had students who receive intuitively largely through physical sensation. So one of those students might say something like, I can feel my guide is near me because I've got that cool breeze on my right arm. And when it's the cool breeze on my right arm, I know it's, I don't know, Ziggy the unicorn guide, and I can feel that. And I know it's there. So you will feel and connect with your guides in your own way. And something, if you're going to start by saying, hello, guides, you might want to say, hello, guides, how can I know it's you? And then feel, do you hear a little something, see a little something, right? Know a little something, and just gradually, a little bit, day by day, build that relationship.
I love that. Thank you.
I know
Thank you.
That's wonderful. It's interesting because well, this week I couldn't get some IT calendar thing to work. And I walked away and I said, okay, angels or guides, whoever wants to help me and has time, step in. And I walked away from it. I came back and I solved it immediately. And I had been working for it for 2 days. I mean, that is how magical it is. Now I didn't feel that, but I just knew something would show up for me. I was like, I'm frustrated. I'm getting angry. This is just not the space to be in. And they show up. But for me, it's kind of like, and the hard thing for people that are, I forget what Claire it is, the knowing, Claire knowing,
claircognizant.
Claircognizant. Well, I get information dropped in, I don't know how to explain it. It just kind of hits for no reason. And then I know, and when it comes like that, I always know. I'm like, okay, well, I got this from the sky. Okay. And so I know that, but how do you develop that? I wish I could cultivate it to get more of it. So as we're developing this, I mean, that happens once in a blue moon. I don't have it happen all the time. And they send me other messages, but not that, just that. It's like you seeing something, I just know. That doesn't happen all the time. Although I work with guides all the time. I would invite our listeners to try it out. Like you said, ask the questions. I'm going to do that too. But how do you get more? I mean, how did you get more in your mind's eye? How do I get more knowing dropping? How do you get more feeling dropping, or however that works for you, Jeanna?
Oh, so there's, so the best way is to practice. Practice on your own and practice consistently. There are some great books about developing and awakening intuitive ability. So check out a book. And what I would guide you to do is do like an intuitive Google, which I love, or intuitive Amazon search, right? Go in and see and say, hey, guides, which of these books speaks to me? Which one of these is best for me? Which one feels right to me? One of my favorites is Ask Your Guides, which is by Sonia Choquette. That's an older book. Opening to Channel by Sanaya Roman is also really great. So there's really good ones, but it's even more fun. I think that the Artist's Way is a book about intuitive development because of the way it leads you through practice to a more disciplined approach to connecting with your inner creativity, with your inner wise self. So first is practice. Take classes if you can find them. It's hard to find classes that allow you to speak intuitively and also that don't try to teach a certain method. So the way that I teach is by trying to key into the individual abilities of each of the students. So my classes are very small, by keying into the individual abilities of the students. And from that place, helping them have the courage really to speak intuitively. Because like with improv, if you are scared to make a fool of yourself, it'll be hard to speak intuitively. Does that make sense? You have to get comfortable enough so that whatever it is you're feeling can come right out of your mouth, even if you're wrong, even if you're going to look like an idiot. And that takes even more practice to be able to speak intuitively. So read books, practice every day, take classes. When you're out walking in nature, if you're someone who is especially tuned into the outside world, ask the birds to give you a message, ask the leaves to give you a message. If it starts to rain, look up to the sky and say, what does this bring to me? Practice, practice, practice. Intuitive practice is a joy. Most people aren't professional intuitives. Most people don't do what I do. But for every person, intuitive practice is a joy. It can enrich your life. It helps bring you closer to spirit, like capital S spirit, like the animating principle of the universe, brings you closer to spirit, brings you closer to your power and your grace and your abundance.
Oh, I love that.
God, that's so good.
It is.
It choked me up. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
That's a sermonette. When that happens, that's how you know it's not just me talking.
That's so incredible. I mean, it was powerful. That was powerful.
No, it's really
It's
good.
really
And
good.
I feel like not to take things. I love the improv. We talked about that earlier, that everybody actually could use some improv, but I feel like you not to take everything so seriously. So there's some play. And so Jeanna and I play a little bit. And then, of course, actually having somebody that in your world that points out, well, when you act like this, I'm gonna listen, because you've let us out of some precarious situations,
many a trap,
which I will be like, I have no idea why I think this. And when I say that, she goes laserly pointed, and so it gives me confidence, and then vice versa, we do the same thing. So having a partner too to kind of play with, that you feel comfortable, is beautiful.
It's part of why, and one of the reasons I love teaching so much is that I put a lot of emphasis on that, on the fun of speaking intuitively. And so in my classes, we speak intuitively starting in the very first class, even if all we say is a yes or a no, just because you can do it. And it's so much fun. And doesn't mean you're going to go give professional readings for people, or you're going to start reading the guy next to you on the bus, or no. It's because you are working that muscle, the truth that you do know more, feel more, you are more than you might believe you are. And that's, speaking intuitively is one of the things that kind of opens that gate up and lets you feel into that more.
Well, one of the things we talk quite a bit about on the podcast is just being present, and that mindfulness and presence. And as you're talking, I feel like there's very much an intention of being very present, because for many people, myself included, for a long time, I've always had a pretty strong intuition. More in my childhood, I felt like I didn't even practice. It felt like it got very quiet. I don't think it did. I just don't think I was listening. I think a lot of the time I was still applying it, but wasn't as, I didn't see the drop, that the intuition come in, and then my decision linked to those, like I did when I was younger. So I still think it was happening. I just wasn't, because I was busy and I was running and I was just not in my body. I was not present. I wasn't slowing down enough, getting quiet enough to hear it. And so anyway, just as you were talking, I was just thinking we talk about, building in routine in your day around mindfulness and awareness and quiet and going internal, even just for a bit to check in. That sort of practice will very much enhance the intuition's ability to drop things in that you're going to catch, right?
Yeah. And isn't it cool that in all that running and busy and out of the body and everything else was going on, isn't that cool that your intuition never left you?
Yeah, absolutely.
That even when it wasn't like it was when you were younger, it was still right there.
Right.
Sometimes all it takes is just a breath to bring yourself back into the moment, to slow things down, to help you reconnect. For bonus points, maybe 3 mindful breaths. But if you're just snatching breath, if you're gasping for air, if you're running out the door, if something's wrong in your body, or somebody's yelling at you, or you're in a hurry, or got it wrong, or you just don't even know, just stop and take a breath. And that's a good time to say, guides, help, or help me see more. Or my personal favorite, because I get busy and rushing around like a crazy person, my favorite is to take a breath and say, I am here. I'm here in this body, in this moment, with these guides, with my abilities, with everything going on in front of me, right? Dog peed on the carpet, wine rack spread out on the ground. I don't know what to do next. I'm here in this moment. That right there, that being able to say, I'm here. And as you're saying, that present moment is key to every part of spiritual development. All of it starts there.
Yeah. Wow. I love it. I mean,
I know. I just want to take that in, because I think we have a situation in the world right now that people are so busy that we check out.
Yeah.
And the reason why we want to be listening to our intuition is to follow it, because it is going to lead to more joy in your life. And that is one of the things that we desperately want to promote is let's lead ourselves to joy. And by listening, It is joyful.
Yeah.
And we are so tremendously reactive right now
Yeah.
that it becomes almost impossible sometimes to hear anything except our own anger or indignation or fear or loss or grief or whatever, rage or whatever that is. And now I would say now more than ever, it's important if we can to stop and take a breath.
Mhm.
Because when we are in those highly reactive selves, nothing good comes of that. Pain and destruction and separation and arguing and division, that's what comes from that reactivity. And so using intuition when we look at world events isn't so much about helping us see what comes next. It's more that we can use our intuition to help us see what's really happening. How can I shift that reaction into a response? How can I feel more deeply into what someone is telling me or what someone is saying or not saying to me? How can I, in a conversation with a family member who I might be deeply divided from around whatever it is, politics or anything else, how can I use my intuition to feel into his motives or feel into his pain in such a way that we might really be able to create a healthier dialogue between us? There's a constructive use of intuition, a practical, well, there's always practical use for intuition, but there's a practical way to use intuition when we are feeling so reactive.
Mhm.
And I believe that does lead us to understanding, and from understanding to joy. Yeah.
I love that.
I love that. Okay, so you've done 751 years of readings.
And I'm only 28 years old.
And she's 28, folks. And so in doing all these readings, I mean, you have so much knowledge. Is there a universal, how do I want to say this, Jeanna? Is there a universal message that Spirit wants to give all of us?
Yeah.
Great question.
Oh my goodness. It's that you're loved.
Yeah.
So now I'm just asking my guide, it's that you're loved. Can you not see the miracle of you as you are right now with all your suffering and all the things that are stinky or wrong, or you should have done it a different way? But can you not see the miracle of you in this body at this time? And please know how dearly, deeply, truly you are loved, not the outer appearance of you, but your essence, who you really are.
Mhm.
There's a deep, deep love, belonging, connection that you have with Spirit, with the divine, and that we all have with each other. And so I guess the universal message would be, you're not screwing it up. It's not too late. It doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter what's been done to you. You are loved and you are love. And it's okay from this moment, the next breath, it's okay from this moment to live as if that was true, even if you don't believe it, even if you think it doesn't apply to you. Maybe that's the message. Sorry, another sermonette. Gorgeous.
I love
You know what? If you're listening to the podcast, just note the time Karen starts and then ends that, and just hit that on replay. That was beautiful.
That's beautiful.
Really, really was. It was beautiful.
As we close out,
Everyone needs that.
Everybody needs it. I know.
Yep.
As we close out the show, is there anything that you'd like to tell us that maybe we should close out with? I don't know. I don't want to say we missed something, because there's no misses, but you know, is there anything that would create this conversation more whole before we tell you to give us your deeps on how to find you?
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of your intuition. Don't be afraid to play with this. Don't be afraid to throw a question out to your guides and see what happens. It isn't scary. It's yours. And you get to decide what you do with it or don't do with it. Don't be scared. Be love. I guess that's what I would say.
Can I ask a follow-up question very quickly? If say something comes up and we make a decision to pass on it, not move on something, whatever it is, will it come back up again if it's something critical for our soul to acknowledge, do
I love
something
that
different
question.
with?
We could go another hour on that one.
I
Jeanna.
know,
Yeah,
I
that's
know.
what and I'm like, oh, how do I
say that
say
quickly,
it?
right? You know,
Yeah.
because I
Here's
want
how
to
I'm
know
gonna
that answer too.
Yeah.
so here's how I'm gonna try to answer it from two perspectives. First, the
Yeah.
big picture perspective. Most things on our life path are free will.
Oh,
There are very few places. There are places, but there are very few places that are what I call destiny points.
mhm.
And those destiny points are different for every person. So when I'm reading Path as an intuitive, I'm looking at those destiny points, but most everything is free will. If you miss something, if you pass on something and it was absolutely meant to be yours and it's a destiny point, like you must take that job in
Right.
Kennebunkport or whatever it is, it will keep coming back in a way where you're finally like, I give up, Kennebunkport, I'm going. So that's the big picture. Small picture is when your guides or spirit is trying to get something through to you and you're ignoring it, your guides will come around another way, show you another way. They will be gentle and kind and compassionate in how they keep bringing it up for you. And when that happens, when I say we, I mean me too. When that happens, we almost always think it was our own great idea that we had. So there's a compassion about this. One of the questions I get asked a lot is, did I make a mistake? Did I blow that chance? Is it all
Right.
lost for will I never, whatever that is? And the answer is almost always no, actually, you didn't mess it up. If it's yours, it'll come back around. And you don't need to worry about it. Just keep walking toward what you want. So does that help with that question? We really could do another hour on that.
Yeah. Yes, it absolutely did. And I think, gives those of us who might have missed some things along the way a little hope that it's going to come back around. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
we all did. That's part
Of
every
course,
choice we make
yeah.
is a choice. There's a
Yeah.
thing we didn't do. So sure.
Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you. That was perfect. Thank you.
How do our listeners get a hold of you, get a reading, go to classes, listen to her podcast? I'm telling you.
Catch a show, a comedy
Yes.
show.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So KarenHagar.com is my website. If you want to see a picture of me with makeup on from like 7 years ago, I would go directly to KarenHagar.com because there's a big picture of me with makeup on. That's a place where you can find the podcast. We're all over. You can also Apple Podcasts, a good place to find it. Spotify, we're everywhere. Boy, do I love doing that show. Oh man, talking to people. And so Out of the Fog podcast, you can find that anywhere good podcasts are purveyed. I teach intuitive development classes all year long. If you go to KarenHagar.com/intensive, or just follow one of the links from the homepage, you'll see the details about the next circle that's forming. Because those circles are very small and I'm careful about who I let in, if you're interested in that, email me and we'll have a conversation about whether or not it's a good fit for you. So KarenHagar.com is where it all is, and makeup.
I love, and in makeup. And I love that you call your classes a circle. I think that's actually perfect.
Oh, it is. Part of what makes an intuitive connection is not just the reader, it's the person, it's the questioner, right? So it is a circle because it's all of us putting our energy right into the center and then going from there. Yeah.
Love it.
Well,
what a phenomenal conversation,
yes,
Karen. We have to have Karen back.
I mean, she's funny. Okay,
I know.
She's everything.
Listen, I have so many more questions.
I know. It was true.
Yes. But I want to practice, and then we can show off how much we've grown.
We want to show off.
Intuition.
Absolutely. Showing off is also a good way to develop.
Yes, I'm all about the show. Yeah. Oh, it's not. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate your generosity, your time. You're a light. Go check her out. Go have a reading. Go listen to the podcast. Amazing.
Check out the makeup.
Always.
Go Karen. Yeah.
Bye,
Very
everyone.
2000s. Yep.
I love it.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Karen.